Welcome, people of the World Wide Web. So it is the weekend time, and as always, apologies from my, it's been a long night. It is movie review time. So it is Hail Mary. So yes, the new movie adaptation of the Andy Weir book, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, that seem to have been interacting with a lot of like the Spider-Verse and Sony and other stuff. Obviously stars Ryan Gosling as Ryan and Grace, Sandra Hüller as Eva Stratz, James Otis as the voice kind of Rocky, and Lionel Boyce as Carl. There isn't too many people in this. If you haven't seen the trailer or you don't know anything about this movie, essentially they discover something, this new kind of particle elements, creature, whatever. It is eating the sun. Unfortunately, not only is it in the sun, it's affected in every kind of planet in our solar system and beyond, all except one planet. For the human race to survive, because obviously as it gets colder and something, we won't be able to, farming, food and stuff production will be hindered, obviously due to how many people on the planet. And essentially Ryan Gosling ends up getting tasked with this job to go with some other people into space to this planet to try and discover what was going on, to try and help the planet Earth. And along the way, he meets this other alien, which is in the same situation, which he names Rocky. It is an enjoyable movie. There's nothing during or after the credits. It's 2 hours and 36 minutes long. So me and my friend went and watched it at 8 o'clock. So we didn't get out until 11. That's why I'm a little bit, as I'm filming this the next day. So spoiler warning up, and we shall get into this movie. So yes, so this movie, even though you've seen the trailer, React kind of is shot a little bit in two halves. And I say in two halves, it's kind of two continuous stories, which has been done before, but it kind of starts off with Ryan Gosling being woken up. He's in kind of this kind of zipped up bag. He defrosts. These machines are trying to help him out. Remind me a little bit of kind of Iron Man a little bit. And he doesn't kind of know where he is, and you kind of have this realization. Essentially, he's been in sleep, he's been woken up for cybersleep for whatever reason, but the other two crew members that are with him unfortunately have perished in the time that he has been in space. And essentially he is then left alone to carry out the mission, but obviously doesn't quite understand the mission because obviously doesn't really remember a lot of who he is, what he's doing, where he is. And obviously there was supposed to be a pilot. I think it's a pilot, an astronaut and a scientist, and he's a scientist. So obviously the two other films he doesn't really know. He's not really a pilot or he's not really an astronaut, but obviously he ends up having to do it. And this have your movie. So it's him kind of coming to the terms, realizing that people there, jettisons their bodies into Earth, and then trying to kind of realize what his mission is and go with it. While this story is then going on, we then have a kind of the beginning of the story happen. So you kind of have the space side, which is the second half of the film, and then in between that, which is kind of the beginning to the end of the film, you have a sidelong story, which is the backstory, which essentially is him being a teacher. He has this theory about that creatures can survive on water. Eva Strutt, Sandra Hüller's character, approaches him because he's a school teacher, because he had this theory and he stood up for it, and everybody doesn't believe him. She then tasks him to this kind of matter that is eating our Earth. They've got samples of it, and he basically has to analyze it. He analyzes it and then realizes what it is. She's like, great. Checks in with her other team, and essentially there are loads of teams around the world doing this because it's kind of a world venture, because it threatens the world. And essentially he's the first person to come up with, this is an organism. It feeds off of the sun to basically give it propulsional abilities, and then it propels itself to another light source to kind of eat off, and that's why it's infecting everything. As he kind of then gets more into the team and stuff, he's then tasked and revealed that there is this Project Hail Mary, which is an American kind of term, I think football term of like the very last second of a dying play. And essentially there is this obviously rocket that's being built, and he kind of helps him out. And as you go along the story, you're finding more. This story continues, and it's kind of chopping and changing in between him being in space. Now, it's never really clear that if it's his memories coming back to him in a chronological order, or if that's just how the storytelling is. But by the end of it, he kind of knows what he's doing and everything else, and stuff. I assume he kind of, when he's in space and that story from the start to the beginning of the film, this stuff just kind of comes to him slowly as it would do the more he's been defrosted. But obviously for this storytelling, it's told as like the story like that, but they put it side by side because it has effect on certain things when you get nearer to the end of the story. So essentially he goes there, he starts to travel to this planet, and past Venus and stuff like this, and there's this belt thing that he's looking for, and as he's kind of scoping this out, he notices kind of this red line, which is what they're kind of following, and in between it there's like a black kind of a neat black patch, and he can't quite figure out, and it turns out this is Rocky's ship. Rocky's ship kind of marries him, and then they kind of because it's marrying him, but obviously there is, Ryan Gosling's character Grace, he doesn't kind of know what to deal with it and stuff like this, but the craft keeps throwing stuff towards him, so he ends up going out, gets in one of these, open it up, and it ends up being like a solar system, and basically the creature or the alien that he knows is sending him objects to try and kind of make a connection, because obviously with language barriers and everything else. This kind of resolves in Gosling, and I thought was really good, the ship that it has kind of part of it that detaches and then it spins round, and this creates a centrifugal force, which basically creates like an environment of the earth and gravity and stuff, so he can work, and kind of then through this he kind of marries up with Rocky's ship, and then obviously he gets to meet Rocky. Obviously Rocky's kind of clicking, clerping and chirping his stuff, and through time he creates a dialogue by realizing that he can see numbers and stuff like this, so he kind of points at the numbers, and then whatever Rocky comes up with, he kind of puts that into the computer. And obviously when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, obviously a lot of the letters there are in the alphabet, and then it kind of correlates stuff, and then obviously because he's a Rocky, he calls him Rocky, and realised that he's in the same boat. His ship left to try and sort this out. He had a crew member of 27 people. Unfortunately, all the other 26 died. He's the last person left, and he's good at creating, and the two of them work together. So Rocky builds kind of this glass prison because they can't survive in each other's atmosphere. So obviously he creates this glass prison with this atmosphere on Ryan Gosling's ship, the Hail Mary, and they go to the planet and try to figure out what's going on. When they get there and through a few tests, they realise that there is an organism there that basically kills this thing that's eating the rest of the solar system, this living creature. So what they do is they hatch a plan to kind of drop this kind of ball type thing that will absorb a lot of the biological material, drag it back up, and then basically they'll synthesize it into a creature that can survive on their planets, and basically then when they introduce it into their solar systems and stuff like this and environments, it will basically wipe out this evil one. Makes sense, it's great. As they're going along, unfortunately things go wrong. Ryan Gosling gets injured, and unfortunately Rocky has to break out of his cage to do it. He's very severely injured, and there's quite a thing of you don't know if he's going to live or he's going to die. He does. They kind of come to the conclusion that they've got everything, and then they go on their own ways as they separate. And a bit of period of time, Ryan Gosling, his ship has a leak, and basically the materials that he has and the basically setup that he's done to make a synthesizer for his planet means that unfortunately it then can infect his ship. He manages to stop this, but knows that when it would be happening to Rocky's ship at the same time, and Rocky basically won't be able to cope with it because he won't know that his whole ship is affected. So he's kind of put in a triangle there, and you kind of have, you kind of have a ship. So he's in the middle there, Rocky's here, Earth's here, and he's kind of like, I don't have enough to go to Earth or to Rocky and back. I have to make a decision. So what he does is he loads what the materials he's found with recorders and stuff like that onto 4 satellite kind of probes, sends them back to Earth, and basically heads after Rocky. He comes across the ship kind of deserted. He goes in there and manages to come across and find that Rocky is still alive. You then kind of have the ending of the film that it is played out, that obviously the human race receive his videos and all this stuff, and obviously they're in their process of doing their thing. And then you go to him, and he's been taken back to Rocky's planet. They've created like a biodome for him with a little house and basically a little teaching segment for him, where he teaches all the kids, which is a very fun thing, which is very, very sweet. And it's him and Rocky connecting, and Rocky has kind of this little glass kind of suit that he wears so they can interact with each other, and it's really, really touching. For a rock creature that has 5 kind of legs, it was very well done. And obviously I've kept away from the human side of things. As you learn the story, stuff goes wrong, and basically he's asked to go on a mission. And at the very end of the story, you find out essentially they drug him and force him to go on it. He doesn't have any choice, because obviously he is the lead scientist, and he's found a lot of stuff for them that they know it. And yeah, and that's kind of only revealed kind of later in the film, which is kind of a bit like, oh, it's a bit harsh. But obviously it was quite fortunate in this story that obviously he then becomes kind of the hero of the world and stuff. So that is it. So what did I think of this movie? I rate this movie 8 out of 10. So at first, a little bit I struggled. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype about this movie, and I think you'll find if you come across when people are hyping up stuff, I really get a little kind of resistant against that, being like, oh, okay, yeah, I get you. Everybody wants it, but I want to kind of make up my own mind, and sometimes it's a bit hard when everybody around you going, yeah, it's great. But I did really like it. I struggled a little bit connection wise, and I don't know if it's because of that throughout it. But by the time we got about halfway through the movie, that's when it really started. When you have Rocky comes aboard and stuff like this, and you don't get to meet Rocky first of all, when you have connections, that's when I really started getting into it. Previously, before that, there was some funny bits, and obviously the secret agent Carl that helps Ryan Gosling's character. I thought those two had good chemistry, and there were some funny moments in there. But I say, it's as soon as Rocky kind of comes in the picture, and these two started forming this bond that I thought worked so well, and obviously how emotional it made me throughout the movie, where there are several times where you think one of them have died or will be dying or being hurt and stuff like this. And that emotion actually done really well. Yeah, and just, I say, emotional. I mean, to me, I'm not the biggest Ryan Gosling fan. I like a lot of stuff he's been in. I like The Nice Guys and stuff like that. I was not a fan of him in Barbie and stuff like this. Where the Pines, if there's another film that I quite like him in, he's only in it for half of it. Driver was all right. But this, I feel, when I know a lot of people talk, I think this is emotional range and his acting. This is up there. This, to me, is the best thing he's done emotional wise. The range of him being upset, him being happy, he goes through a lot of emotions, being in space, obviously being by yourself and stuff, but having this connection with essentially something that's probably not there. And I think it was great. I think the fact he's kind of the main actor, a little bit like The Martian, that he excelled in this role. This was perfect for him, and everything they did was great. Yeah, the only reason it's probably not higher. First, I want to give it a little bit long time. B, I have all that stuff around me. I struggled a little bit with the movie, the first half, so I don't think it's a flawless piece of work. But yeah, great. Really like The Martian, really like this. Look forward to the next Andy Weir adaptation. Have you seen Project Hail Mary? Did you like it, or did you think they fumbled it? I've been critical of Cypher Sigma Screen Time, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.